Greetings adventurers, this is Lauren Gaming, and welcome to my DanMachi Volume 11 spoiler discussion. With the release of my first ever light novel review, I took a look at some of the feedback you gave me, and it looks like it might be a better idea to have a shorter review giving my general thoughts about the volume itself, while having a spoiler discussion taking up the latter half of the video. So, that's the format I will be using for the releases of Episode Ryu and Sword Oratoria Volume 6. Again, the main series is written by Fujino Omori-sensei and illustrated by Susuhito Yasuda, and published by Yen Press. With the formalities out of the way, let's get started with what happened in Volume 11. In my review, I mentioned how I appreciated how the many characters of the series had roles to play in this volume, whether they were major ones or not. The very beginning of the novel introduces a scene with a group of adventurers trying to track down the Xenos who are hiding in Oratoria. Bell becomes a topic of conversation and the group starts to insult and ridicule him, but Mord of all people, the very same Mord who was jealous of Bell and antagonized him in Volume 5, tries to defend him. I think it's nice to see how far Mord has come as a character, where a lot of the time you have characters like him be a villain to the protagonist, get beat up, and then they become forgotten. I like how the author decided to use Mord as a way to show how the older adventurers feel about Bell and how Mord has started to grow fond of him. I know Mord has a part to play in Episode Ryu, so I can't wait to get my hands on that tomorrow and see how he interacts with Bell there. I do want to mention how good of a character Hestia was in this volume. At first, Hestia annoyed me at times because of how clingy she was with Bell, always butting in whenever Bell and Aiz shared moments together, particularly in Volume 8 where Bell was asking Aiz to dance with him, only for Hestia to jump in between the two. However, in this volume we can see Hestia being a responsible goddess who looks out for her familia. She tries to shift the blame for Bell's actions in the previous volume to herself, claiming he only did what he did because of the massive debt she owes to Hephaestus. She also goes out of her way to talk to Loki of all people, with whom she has a bad relationship, in order to persuade her to have Loki Familia ignore the Xenos for the time being as they try to escape back into the dungeon. But Loki states that she can't do that because her Familia would not let that happen, but she will remain merely an observer in the whole Xenos invasion. Whenever Hestia decides to throw away a bit of her pride, I begin to respect her just a little bit more. Over the course of the volume, characters like Ryu, Seer, Naza, and Aisha showed her support for Bell in spite of him believing that they would have a negative opinion of him, and that really just shows how strong his relationships are with those characters for them to believe in him despite what he's done. The scene where Bell visits the church and the orphans did hurt me a little bit, seeing how the orphans who once idolized Bell in Volume 8 started to hate and doubt him. That hurt me right there in the heart, actually. It's really depressing seeing Bell like that. But because of Inai, who I'll address later, the orphans once again look at Bell in a positive light. Speaking of looking at Bell in a new light, while Aiz was keeping a watch on Bell, she sees him interact with a multitude of female characters, like Naza, Ryu, Aisha, and finally Aina, who is upset at Bell for not talking to her after the Xenos invasion. Seeing Bell with all these female characters and Aina crying at the end leads Aiz to ponder, is Bell a jerk? And I found that part particularly funny. Yes, Aiz, Bell does have a large number of female companions, but he only has eyes for you right now. So no worries there, Aiz, come on. Lily continues to make good use of her Cinderella skill, confusing adventures, and even disrupting Loki Familia's formation after tricking Roll by impersonating Finn. Poor guy, he's just trying his best. Come on, Roll. I'm cheering for you, man. But there are two particularly standout characters I want to address here, Inai and Haruhime. One of the orphan kids from the church that Seer frequents ends up in the path of a crumbled building, but, much to the dismay of both Oka and Chigusa, they aren't able to reach the child in time. However, Inai ends up saving him, but only the child and Oka and Chigusa are close enough to see that Inai was protecting the child rather than attacking him. Before, Inai was a shy and timid character, but now she's beginning to make her own decisions, and this is further solidified when she intervenes in the fight between Aiz and Bell, as Bell tries to stall Aiz for Inai to get away. However, Bell doesn't stand a chance at stalling against level 6 Aiz, but Inai shields Bell with her body, causing Aiz to halt and ponder. Inai then begins to tear off her wing and her claws, causing Aiz to rethink her stance on the Xenos and let Bell and Inai go. In that scene, I was horrified as Bell when I was hearing that Inai was tearing off her body parts, but it shows how bold she has become when it comes to standing up to those she wants to protect. The other standout character is Haruhime, who protected Bell and Inai when they were confronted with Bait. Haruhime stood no chance against Bait since he's level 6 and she's level 1, but we do see her turn from the shy and timid character she was in Volume 7 into someone who is willing to stand up in the face of adversity, even though she knows she stands no chance at stopping Bait. A lot of people don't like Bait as a character, but I did like how he respected Haruhime in her defiance of him. Bait detests cowards, but it seems he has a soft spot for characters who are weak and face the strong willingly. Then we see Aisha come in and challenge Bait after receiving Haruhime's level boost, continuing the stalling for Bell and Wine. There are many more characters I could mention, like Welf and Mikoto, who do a great job utilizing magic weapons to distract the Amazon twins and Gareth, as well as Tsubaki and Shakti, but I'd be here all day if I was talking about every single character and what they did in this novel. One thing is clear though, Omori-sensei did a great job using all the characters he's made throughout the novels into this volume. You really get a sense that the whole of Orario is involved with the plot in this particular story arc. But we can't really have a discussion about Volume 11 without addressing the twist and the ending, can we? The twist happens when Leto's group of Xenos goes toward a supposed entrance of Gnosis that was written in the Daedalus notebook given to Hestia by Uranos, but that entrance was still undiscovered to Loki Familia. However, that entrance never existed. It was a trap set by Hermes of all people, who had Osvi create the fake map of Daedalus. I did not see this coming and was excited to see where this was going, but Hermes made me so mad when he asked the Xenos to die for him. I was thinking, Hermes, are you just going to throw away Bell's efforts and everything he's done to get to this point? But Hermes claims that Bell never had a choice and this was all according to the god's divine will. He wants a few of the Xenos to die in a fight against Bell to restore Bell's reputation, and Gross the Gargoyle accepts that role. That particular scene made me hate Hermes because even though I want Bell's reputation to be restored, I don't want it to happen in vain of what he's tried to accomplish this entire story arc. That's why when Hermes gave Bell only two choices to either let Aina die or kill Gross, who was attacking her, I was ecstatic when I saw Bell was defying that role that was given to him by Hermes and to trust in Gross, shielding Aina with his own body. Hermes, the reason you're watching Bell's growth shouldn't be because he's following the path you made for him, but because you want to see the path that Bell creates for himself. Oppose the gods, Bell. Make your own path. And now for the big finale. Bell's fight against Asterios, the Minotaur Xenos. Asterios was severely weakened in Volume 10 by Loki Familia, but he was still an insanely unfair match for Bell. But despite that, Bell decided to fight Asterios anyway, because he's an adventurer after all. We also discovered that Asterios is a reincarnation of the Minotaur Bell defeated in Volume 3 to become level 2. This particular point was foreshadowed pretty heavily, so it wasn't really a surprise, but I do think that Asterios presents a nice foil to Bell's character. The scene was very similar to the war game in Volume 6 where everyone in Orario is watching Bell fight this one enemy, but the scale and meaning in this battle is just so much more. With Volumes 9 and 10, we see Bell question and hesitate when it comes to fighting monsters because of his exposure to Xenos. It's finally here in this fight against Asterios that he's able to finally stop holding himself back and let it all out, much like he did in his fights against the Minotaur in Volume 3. It's very fitting that Asterios is that Minotaur's reincarnation. I liked how Freya Familia is what stops Loki Familia from helping Bell, because it wouldn't make too much sense otherwise for all the adventurers to watch Bell fight alone, since this isn't a war game, this is a fight taking place in the city. But I think I too would be struck in awe if I was watching Bell fight the Minotaur there. And one of those exciting moments is when Finn is talking to Otter, and Otter just casually drops his sword for Bell to use in the fight against Asterios, so I thought that was pretty funny and pretty cool at the same time. But Bell ultimately fails to defeat Asterios, but since that fight ended in the entrance to the dungeon, Asterios is able to escape along with the rest of the Xenos. All the Xenos in some way or another were able to escape back into the dungeon. Now let's talk about some details that are brought up in this volume that can be explored and how that pertains to the future of this series. We saw that Lily and Bell went to basically what was Fel's storehouse for a lot of magic items, the caretaker calling him the Honorable Fels. It makes you wonder if we'll explore Fel's past more, or if we'll make use of that storeroom once again. One of the most exciting moments to me in this volume was the proposed fight with Ryu and Aiz, but we only got to see the setup to that fight and only know what the aftermath of that fight was with Ryu losing. I can't help but say that I'm a little bit disappointed in that because Ryu is my favorite character, and despite the fact that she had no chance of beating Aiz, I wanted to see what Aiz thought of Ryu, but I think we'll get an expansion into that fight in a later sort of Oratoria volume that covers the Xenos arc, so that should be fun. I think that's volume 10, so we got a long way to go with volume 6 coming out tomorrow, but we'll get there in time. But again with Ryu, We see that in order to get Ryu's help, Osvi offers Ryu information about the remnants of the evils, the group of radical adventurers who once antagonized other adventurers and were responsible for the death of many during the nightmare on the 27th floor. As for why Ryu cares, this is because her familia was wiped out by the evils, and she in turn destroyed the Rudra familia, who was a part of them. But spoilers for Sword Oratoria Volume 5, skip like 10 seconds if you don't want to hear this. She met some of the evils on floor 18. So I'm very interested to see where the evils come up in the future, especially since Ryu is on the cover of Volume 13. That can't come out soon enough. We do see at the end of this novel that Aina has started to develop feelings for Belle, more than just a brother or the adventurer that she takes care of. While I'm happy to see how Aina feels about Belle, I'm worried about how that'll affect her relationship with him, because we know that Belle currently only has eyes for eyes. So the people of Oratoria now know about Gnosis, which contain new entrances to the dungeon, but I believe they have no way to utilize these at the moment because of the two keys that we know of, the Zeno should have one and Fells has the other. However, it will be interesting to see how the guild handles the existence of this labyrinth. Finally, we see that Belle has a new goal to work towards. Besides being an equal to Eyes, he's finally gained a rival, which is something the author mentioned in his afterword, and I think it was a very good move. Eyes is still in that unreachable place being at level 6, but Belle has some unfinished business with Asterios right now because right now they're at an even 1-to-1 when it comes to fights. Just from fighting Eyes in this volume, Belle has reached SS and Triple S in most of his stats, so he's due for level up soon, possibly next volume. We know that adventurers can't level up unless they accomplish some great feat, so I can't wait to see what that could potentially be in the future, possibly in Volume 12. Eyes and Belle seem to have made up in the end of this volume, and Belle asks Eyes to train him again, despite what transpired earlier, which I find kind of funny and bold at the same time. Eyes does accept this, so we might see some good scenes between the two of them in the next volume as well. The entirety of Volume 11 was just an exciting roller coaster to read, and has made me love this franchise even more. What did you think of Volume 11? Did you like all the characters were used in the novel? What were your favorite scenes? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Like I said before, I'll be reviewing Episode Ryu and Sword Oratoria Volume 6 in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. The first part of those videos will be a general review, followed by a spoiler discussion, and probably shorter than this one was. Don Memo is about to enter part 2 of the Grand Day event, and I'll definitely be making more videos pertaining to that as well. Man, there's a lot of DanMachi stuff going on right now, isn't there? Again, thank you so much for everyone who watches my videos and helping me reach 1,000 subscribers. It's your support that keeps me going. If you like this video and would like to see more like this, go ahead and give me a like and subscribe to my channel for more content. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter and join my Discord for any good old DanMachi discussion. As always, continue your time adventuring in Oratoria and the dungeon. This is Lauren Gaming and I'm signing out.